Back, time to play a little bit of a game here. One just kind of like the one anyway that was played by Goldman Sachs. You may have seen this before. I'll call it three-cup Monty. I've got the ball here and, of course, three cups. I'll place the ball underneath one of the cups, and then I'll start to shuffle them around here. You can see this, right? And you can try to bet which one the ball is under. Is it under this cup? Is it under this cup? Or is it under this cup? Of course, the carnival game can be played one of two ways, honest or crooked. And what makes it legal or illegal depends on the intent of the operator. If I leave the ball on the court and just have you follow the cup with the ball, right, that theoretically is a game based on skill, your ability to follow the ball. But as we all know, if I take the ball out and then rig the game, like say pulling the ball out mid-move, well then it's not only unethical but illegal and you can get busted by the cops. Kind of like rigging the game to guarantee that as you bet with me, I know you'll never find the ball because the ball is never underneath, right? Sound familiar? But let us put questions of legality aside as to this game of three-card Monty and all this little gambling that's going on in our banking system. The thing everyone can agree on is that this here is a pretty shady way to make money however you do it. Playing I don't know, where is the thing? Oh, there it is, right? So here's a trillion-dollar question. Why does the U.S. government continue every day, including this day today, delivering wheelbarrow carts full of taxpayer money through the Federal Reserve and the Treasury to gamers like Goldman Sachs so they can play three-card Monty with your money, gambling in the types of transactions we've all learned about since last Friday's accusations from the SEC, whether it is legal or not? Since 2008, Goldman Sachs changed its official status to a bank holding company. The firm, as a result, continues to receive access to a constant stream of cheap money that no one else can get, not to mention bailouts at 100 cents on the dollar through AIG and other government programs, including those programs that paid off the actual bets to John Paulson and Goldman Sachs when they bet that this game of three-card Monty was going the other way, or three-cup Monty, I guess it is. Goldman, by the way, far from the only bank making a living with these sort of shady dealings. You can see they weren't even at the top of the list. Merrill Lynch was number one, UBS was number two, Bear Stearns right in there. Trillions in federal funds already shelled out, $4.6 trillion to be exact, with the prospect at risk of up to $23 trillion. Wheelbarrows of your money rolled in day after day, to this day, by your Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, and by your Fed Chairman, Ben Bernanke. Why are they rolling out that money? So that they can gamble with our money? Brings us to the solution, doesn't it? How do we stop the three-card shuffle with our money? First things first, we have to stop giving these banks our money. Don't give them money to gamble with. They need to be broken up so they can stop blackmailing us to give them our money. It's very simple. Neither plan right now will do this. They still have total blackmail authority over every person in this country. Second, after you break up the banks, clean up their game. That's very simple. You do that initially by simply bringing transparency. You see that? To the way everybody plays the game, so that now we can see how the game is played, and you can see if I pull the object of the game, finding this little ball, out. Blanche Lincoln has a plan for transparency in derivatives. Will the White House, will the rest of our Congress approve of it? Joining us now, independent senator of this great state of Vermont. I should probably suppose a bias there, Senator, just because I'm from upstate New York, so I've got a Vermont bias. Oklahoma's great, too. Senator Coburn's from there. Are you willing to break up the bank, Senator?
Absolutely. I think that is the $64 question, or the $64 trillion question. The reality is, Dylan, is that you have the four largest banks in this country issuing 2/3 of the credit cards, 50% of the mortgages, and they have over $7 trillion in assets collectively, which is over 50% of our GDP. Of course, you have to break them up, A, in order to protect taxpayers against another too big to fail. Second of all, their concentration of ownership means unbelievable power and monopolistic influence over the whole economy. We have got to break them up. There are some economists who think no bank should be larger than $100 billion in assets. That is exactly what we've got to do. I have legislation in to do that, and I'm going to fight on the floor in this financial reform bill in order to bring that about.
Why do you think it's not there now?
Well, for the banking committee, this would be a radical proposal. Second of all, let's be very clear. The issue is not primarily whether Congress regulates Wall Street. It's the degree to which Wall Street regulates the Congress. When we went to deregulation against my very strong opposition, over a 10-year period, these guys who have unlimited amounts of money, thousands of lobbyists, huge amounts in campaign contributions, they spent $5 billion in a 10-year period. Last year alone, they spent $300 million. The money is flying all over the place right now. That's the short answer.
Is it safe to say this is not a Democrat or Republican issue? I just talked to Senator Coburn, who said he would be aggressively in favor of breaking up the banks. We've heard rumors that Senator Shelby may be in favor of breaking up the banks. I know there are others among the Democratic caucus who are in favor of this, but we have yet to hear from either Democrat or Republican leadership on this issue.
Well, I think you're right. We know that there are 3 regional Fed presidents who are for breaking up these banks. Bottom line here is no matter what kind of reform you bring forth, if a Bank of America is about to teeter and take with it a significant part of the economy and millions of jobs, they're going to be bailed out. And what you got to do now is break them up today.
Do you feel that resolution authority, without actually breaking up the banks, without actually having capital ratios, without having detection and deterrence, is adequate?
Again, I think that the real solution is to break them up. And again, let me reiterate this, because this point is not made very often. It's not just the too big to fail problem. It is monopolistic control of the economy and incredible concentration of ownership. Who thinks, I mean, if Teddy Roosevelt were here right now, the guy who broke up all the big special interests in his day, if he believed that 2/3 of the credit cards were being issued by 4 banks, does anyone think we should not be breaking these guys up?
Do you have any answer as to why it is, for instance, if you look at the Goldman Sachs lawsuit from Friday, which at the very least exposed the nature of the bets that people like Goldman and their hedge fund clients like to devise, and quite honestly, it was a clever bet. They believed the housing market was overvalued and that the loans weren't going to get paid, and they put together a synthetic derivative, a bet that it would fail. They were right, by the way, and received a few $1 billion as a result, but we paid
Dylan,
the money.
here's the point. Dylan, here's the point on that one. Take a breath for a moment and think about where we're at. You have a middle class collapsing. You have small and medium-sized businesses desperately in need of affordable credit so they can expand and create jobs. They're not getting that help. What you have is a Wall Street living in a parallel universe, playing with trillions of dollars in gambling casinos instead of investing in the real economy and producing real products and helping us create real jobs. That is the ultimate issue. We need a new Wall Street where Wall Street lives in the real world, not just in a world in which they can use their greed and recklessness to make as much money as they possibly can, any way they can. And by the way, I don't think Goldman Sachs is the only financial institution out there engaged in these type of activities.
Yeah, I think it's clear. And speaking of that, where do we stand on expanding the investigations into, for instance, Merrill Lynch, UBS, or Deutsche Bank, who were, or Bear Stearns, for that matter, who were among the most active in structuring the type of bets Goldman Sachs is now taking heat for making?
Well, let's give the SEC credit for finally waking up and being prepared to take on one of the most powerful institutions in the world, but they've got a lot more to do. Remember, under the Bush administration, these guys were comatose. So we're making some progress, but we've got a long way to go. The other issue that I want to mention to your viewers that we're going to be focusing hard on is that after we bail out our friends on Wall Street, they are now charging millions of people in this country 25 or 30% interest rates on credit cards. That is usury. That is immoral. That has got to end. And we're going to be putting forward legislation supported by a number of people, including Dick Durbin, which will put a cap on interest rates for the financial institutions.
If what you just said doesn't irritate my viewers to the point where they want to now throw something at their television, let's remind them that we are giving the banks money for free to bail them out from their gambling game that I was discussing earlier. They are taking the free money and then lending it back to you and I on our credit cards at 20 or 30%.
And one of the other issues we're going to fight for is